Ivan. It's fantastic to be here all with you. I recall I was telling Ivan that in 2010, I think Carl, Ivan, and I met at the Starbucks on Central and Eubank. I think the roots of this effort go beyond that, even further into the past, but it's fantastic to see this realized. So today, it is my singular pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Deborah Frincke of Sandia National Labs. At Sandia, she is the Associate Laboratories Director for National Security Programs. Dr. Frincke embodies Sandia's motto of exceptional service in a national interest, having worked on high consequence challenges in academia, at multiple national labs, in government, and specifically at the National Security Agency. For purposes of this event, Dr. Frincke is a nationally recognized expert in cybersecurity, and with respect to quantum, she serves on the National Quantum Initiative Advisory Committee, advising the president. She's also, on a personal note, an indefatigable champion of quantum at Sandia. Thank you.
I should give him some extra quarters for that introduction. That was really nice. Now, my team also did equip me with notes, but I did not promise to read them. So we'll see how that goes. I think that the introductions, though, were admirably handled, and so I'm going to reference back to some of that and maybe add a little different perspective. So I insisted on inserting cyber expert because that's really where I came from. I did not come to quantum because of the spooky nature, the challenges of it, any of that. I came to that because what is this thing people are going to do to our critical infrastructures by developing a computer that's going to be capable of so much more than what we ever anticipated a computer could do with regard to codes? And then became fascinated by that, and in a long and winding way wound up needing to be involved in a lot of national dialogue. So before I dive into some of that, though, I did want to say some thank yous. Where's our provost? We are all in Sandia on quantum. This is a big deal for us. This is important. We love the collaboration. We love working with the university here, the broader academic community. We applaud the leadership we have that are as innovative as any state I've lived in, and I've lived in a lot of them. And then also working with our partner, Los Alamos, where we have a lot of collaboration. So really appreciate that. Something that hasn't been said yet, though, is I want to express appreciation to those who have been in the quantum field for the decades that we're talking about, that you saw on the screen here. This is a field that did not start out with big applause like AI or cyber is going to scare. This is a field that started out with people banging their head against the wall. How are we going to make this work? Einstein saying, I can't believe we're playing dice with the universe. You know, these kinds of things. It was not an easy field, right? It was not an easy field. And even an expert educator like this, it took some coffee for us to hear that introduction, right? To think about what is quantum. And I have tried to explain quantum to a number of different places, and it makes my head hurt a little bit to try to bridge that gap. But this is a field that's taken stamina and energy from faculty, students, researchers, technologists to get to a point where we can interest and make this something that can be an economic driver. So I think a lot of you have been asked, like every 5 years, is there a there in quantum? And now there actually is a there. There also is a lot of fundamental work to do, and I think that we've all gathered that, and we all need to keep that in mind as we invest in the economic side. So I wanted to make that as key point. So deep thanks to those who beat their head against that wall for such a long time. And it was my privilege in a lot of different hats I've worn to help champion that and make sure that those efforts stayed alive. It's really wonderful to see what's going on. Now, in the global sense, I'm not going to get in a lot of detail, but I do want to mention that we've talked about the importance of quantum. You wouldn't be here if you didn't care about it, but this is cared about really on the global stage and very interesting and very senior places. And some of you will know this, but maybe others would like to hear it. So for instance, one of the places that I ran across quantum as being highlighted was in working with NATO. They put together an emerging technologies committee that was intended to identify what are those specific technologies, research areas that would be crucial to the health of the NATO alliance. And you might wonder why they care about that. Well, and again, this maybe shouldn't need to be said, but I'll say it. The best way to prevent war is to have prosperity, collaboration, technologies, and advancement, right? So investing in a healthy economy for the globe and for an alliance is also a great way to get there. There are also the aforesaid reasons why I got into quantum in the first place, that one does have to think about that from a national security. But NATO put together a list of 5-ish technologies they thought were critical. Quantum was number 2 on that list. Quantum was number 2, so it was right up there along with AI and cybersecurity a few years ago. Another place that this came up, and this I think points to the wisdom now of our state explicitly talking about the economic value of quantum, was when the White House, again, several years ago, wasn't that what this administration was previous, put together several committees that were intended to review what was going on with quantum across the nation. That right in and of itself should speak to the importance of it. The one I want to mention is the economic and national security implications of quantum. Now, you don't hear about that too much, but that committee is important because that is looking at how do we make sure that the economic benefit will always flourish, and that's why the E is first, economic. And how do we make sure that the national security implications are also recognized and served? So that has been really fascinating to see. And then more recently, serving on the NQAC, which is Biden's Committee on Quantum, we've done a summary that, not me specifically, but the whole group of us that are appointed to that committee, about a dozen, doing interviews to see what's the health of the nation, to identify what does our nation, what does the United States need to bring to the table just overall in terms of quantum. And a constant drumbeat, which is let's make sure we take care of the fundamental sciences, and let's make sure we get these technologies that are now something that can actually drive and improve life, everything from the sensors on up to what's burgeoning in areas like IonQ, I think is here as well, looking at what we might do for larger quantum computers. And so that was a key thing. Also workforce development, another reason we're delighted about the partnership, and then several other areas in terms of infrastructure where there's been investment. So that is really interesting to see that at all three of these levels, there's been a recognition of quantum, again, emerging for something that has spooky effects that people go and look at for lots of reasons, and now it's here where we are. A second thing I wanted to mention, and I'm going to be careful not to outrun my headlights with time, is the state of New Mexico. Now, New Mexico is not only the land of enchantment, and now I think it's the land of quantum state, although we could say at this meeting, and you'll have to pardon a very terrible, corny quantum joke, is a land of entanglement. And, and that is because we have got to make all of this work. We've got to get the fundamental sciences right. We have to have the collaborations with the national labs there. We must have the universities and the technical institutes working together. We need to have jobs for people, and we need to have people for jobs. All of this needs to work together. So this is an area where the spooky effect of quantum, I think, is also going to be part of what we do here in New Mexico. And it's one reason why I think this area will flourish, in addition to the more specific reasons you heard from the previous speaker. Also want to tap the partnership. You saw, again, I love that map was there. I didn't have to bring one, and I hadn't. I was wondering how I was going to explain all of the work with the laboratories and with the universities through the ages, but you saw this has been going on for a couple of decades. This is not on paper partnership. This is people who've been working together in the trenches all the way through up to the highest levels of leadership at all of these organizations. And so it is a strong foundation. And then lastly, want to point to the investments and the notice that the state of New Mexico has gotten from outside. It's, it's really, it may seem normal to us here, but if you stepped outside of New Mexico, you might say, oh my goodness, how on earth did they pull this off? We've got Elevate Quantum coming in. Sandia is one of the partners in one of the 5 flagship labs that Department of Energy invested in for accelerating quantum. We have all the work that Los Alamos has done, Sandia and others, with the SINT that is making a difference. We've got at Sandia, the Big Enchilada, a very lovely New Mexico name for an ion trap. Again, not many audiences could I say with pride and expect you to understand, but we make some of the best ion traps in the globe. And I think that's awfully cool that we do that in the state of New Mexico. We can manage those through our Big Enchilada, up to 200, maybe 300 of those, which is necessary in order to make the next big step. So there's a lot of expertise here, a lot of collaboration here, a lot of enthusiasm. And I just want to again end by saying we are entangled. We are in a quantum state. We can make a bigger difference even than these labs and universities and all of the economic growth that has been invested in here, together with the external things like Elevate Quantum, et cetera, and what's planned for the future. So really appreciate being here. Looking forward to hearing what's going on later. And thanks for the invitation.